Hey, how you doing? It's why you working. Hey, today we're going to talk about, we always talk about the same thing. You're trading your time for money. The money's going down in value, your time's going up in value. So today we're going to be talking about an asset, real estate. That's what we're going to talk about. Okay, talking about real estate, we all need somewhere to live. Everybody's got to live somewhere. Every human really, if you think about it, wants the same thing. I mean, what do you want? You want a safe place to live. You want a roof over your head. You want heat. Hey, some people want cooling. You want food. You want to feel safe. You want your kids to be good. I mean, everybody wants the same thing. But anyway, you're working. You know, we all know all the reasons you work. But if you think about it, people, they spend a lot of this money on a lot of foolish stuff. In other words, if you're renting and you're not owning the property, you're missing out because you're not going to own this property. It's an asset. It's one of the things that are going to go up in value as the government devalues the dollar. You know they're going to devalue the dollar. It's not a variable like things are going to get better. They're 39 trillion in debt. So the only way out for our government, they spend more money than they take in because of, there's a lot of reasons. I mean, but the bottom line is they spend more money than they take in. So me and you can't really do that because we can't print money. Okay? So now the government's printing money. So now, right off the bat, one of your biggest expenses in life while you're working is because you got to rent somewhere. So the goal's got to be to end up owning a piece of real estate. Now, a lot of people are going to say, oh, that's impossible. I can't afford that. There's no way I could ever. Hey, this is proof that how things change. I'll give you a perfect example. You can start it all the way back with even vehicles. I have 3 daughters, okay? When one was 10 years old, roughly 9 or 10 years old, 8, 9 or 10, I had another little girl. And then 18 months later, I had another little girl. So there's 3 girls. Let's just say a 10-year-old, a 1-year-old, and a 2-year-old in a Ford Escort, a tiny car, like a Honda Civic. Now, of course, that's impossible. Now you need an SUV. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Just to give you an example. Now, other things have changed too. I mean, back then it was unheard of to go out to dinner constantly or to go out to lunch constantly. In the 80s, back then when these kids were little, we never went out. Now, one of my daughters down in Jersey, they eat out constantly. Thank God they do own a house. But what I'm getting at is the analogy of you're working, you're spending your time for money, and then you don't really realize what you're doing with this money. With this money, what you're doing is you're keeping the bagel place running, you're keeping Jersey Mike's running, you're keeping Five Guys running, you're keeping Ford Motor Company going, Toyota going, whatever. In other words, you're spending all this money on a lot of stuff that if you think about it, in the old days, people didn't do that. Now everybody wants everything. Nowadays, everybody wants everything, and they want everything now. I mean, that's the whole thing with life. Everything now. You got to have something immediately. I mean, I get a kick out of it. I'm not a Dunkin' Donuts guy, okay? I make my coffee home. It's just a habit I get into. There's a lot of different ways you can make coffee home. I mean, you can have a French press. You can have a coffee maker. I'm not one big on pods because I'm against the plastic thing. But all I'm trying to say is now, making coffee home as opposed to going to Dunkin' Donuts is big difference money-wise. Hey, eating a hard-boiled egg for breakfast, you know what I'm saying, with a strawberry or some blueberries, as opposed to a bagel and cream cheese that's, a coffee and a bagel. Nowadays, it's $6, $7, $8. Okay, Jersey Mike's, okay, for lunch. $15. I mean, all day. And then, you got other habits that you might have, whatever. Maybe you drink soda. Maybe you eat Doritos. All I'm trying to say is if you're going to own a piece of property, you got to start with some minimalism. In other words, making your own lunch, having tea instead of coffee. Think about where all this money goes and start a nest egg. This way to get some assets, get a brokerage account, get some stuff in the stock market. You got to get a piece of property. I mean, do this when you're as young as possible. I built my first house when I was 24 years old. That's my story, okay? I know times were easier to the extent that I'm going to be honest with you. I sold an Austin Healey 3000 for $400. I sold a cap off my truck for $300. I had built a stereo. Back then there was this company, Dynaco. You built a stereo, soldered the wires. I sold that stereo for $400 or $500. I put $2,000 down on 3 acres of property. I met a backhoe guy at the breakfast joint that I started paying him money to put a driveway in. Okay? I cut down my own trees. They were this big around. You're gonna think I'm bullshitting. I was cutting pine trees this big around. My friend had mules. He dragged them up to the road. My backhoe guy brought them to the mill. I was getting 2x4s. You're gonna think I'm bullshit, but I'm not. For 5 cents, because it was my own wood. I built a house. Back then there was no legal schmiegel. Building permits, this, that, the other thing, all this crazy stuff. But what I'm trying to say is that I did whatever was necessary. Now, it was 24 by 24 foot. You might as well say garage. So don't really cost that much. Even today, you can buy garage kits for, you could probably frame a garage for, when I say garage, you can build a house 24 by 24. The foundation might be 15 grand, right? But you can get it up in the air for another 10, 15 grand. I mean, there's only a couple rules. What do you need? To be a carpenter, what do you really need to do? You got to learn what the word plumb means. You got to learn what the word level means. You got to learn what the word square means. But what I'm saying is, you could get a piece of property. You got to get a piece of property, because then basically I can tell you a really quick story. I know it's a long video, but listen to me. It's a quick story, but my friend has 25 income apartments. It's in around 11 different buildings, but he's got 25 incomes. Now these buildings, real estate goes up 5% a year, 5 or 10% a year. So if you think about something that's worth 100 grand, you hold on to it 10 years, it's worth a lot more. My house I'm in right now, I bought it in 2003 for $100,500. Now it's worth $400. Granted, I did a little work on it. All I'm trying to say is that you got to be a minimalist. You got to do whatever it takes. Somehow you got to get a piece of property. It could be a raw piece of land, because the raw land goes up in value. That's today's lesson. Real estate. Now, if you like this kind of talk about why you're working and what you're going to do with the money and how you're going to get the money working for you, so you ain't always working for money, subscribe to our channel while you're working. And I'm going to have you a lot more information about these subjects. That's my 76 years of wisdom for you, so you don't end up still working when you're 76. Not that it's a bad thing to be working. I enjoy what I'm doing. I'm still working construction. But what I'm trying to say, I'm trying to pass on to you mistakes that I made. I would have bought more property when I was young. Thank you.